microphone so I can see what we're doing. Oh,
Yeah, we're
all
alive.
right. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to our impromptu late night version of Westward Bees. This is our late night chat that Todd from Loma Vista and I often do either on Wednesdays or Thursdays. Unfortunately, Todd has a club meeting tonight, so he might be able to join us later as he gets home. He might not. Cool thing is, his club meeting is having some sort of presentation done by Randy Oliver. So it'd be really cool to hear next time we see him, hopefully tonight, on how that went. I want to call this meeting to order. Here we have, let's start by taking roll. As we go around and take roll, will you briefly introduce yourself and talk about the officer roles that you have performed in your past? And we'll start over here.
No, the other way. Point the other way. That's it.
We'll start one of these ways.
Joey Rawls.
You talking about me?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I've been a beekeeper for about 11-ish years. 12. I don't know. I lost count. But I belong to a little club here close to home. Washington Parish Beekeepers is what it's called. I was first vice president for about a year, and then made president, and had it for a year and a half, 2 years, and then went back. Finally gave it up and went back to vice president for another year or so, and it's been fun. When I was the president, it was COVID kind of hit, and it messed all my schedule up. And some of the people that I wanted to bring in that year, I had lined up. I never have been able to get them back again. So, But anyway,
Joey, all those roles were for the same club?
Same club.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you. Welcome.
Kind of went up and then back down.
Gotcha. And then we'll go next below us here. Yeah, go for it.
Yeah. Hey, everyone. Sawmill Charlie. My local club is the Susquehanna Beekeepers Club, which the name derives from the Susquehanna River. That's borders the county, and it also feeds the Chesapeake Bay. So 4 years prior to COVID, I was the vice president for 4 years. And then the next 5 years after that, starting in what was COVID was 2020, I became the president for the next 5 years. So that gave me a major challenge as far as we had one meeting at the local college, and then 3 days later, everything was shut down. And I frantically figured out a couple different ways of communicating through Zoom was the one we chose, which was the easiest one to do, which most people know today is secondhand nature as far as that platform. And so we chose that, and I administrated that year through Zoom and changed the world actually there, when not so much me, but COVID did, as far as how people communicated. And our club was one of the few in our area that was able to continue on a monthly basis through Zoom. And then we got speakers, and I think that also brought the science community into YouTube and on board as another way of presenting their material across the country and around the world. And then, of course, we have it today. So I've stepped down as president. I guess it's been about a year now. Maybe going on my second year. I'm still the past president on the board of directors, and I advised the president and the vice president and the board as far as maybe giving them ideas and pointers to maybe do certain things differently. if it arises. Or I also break it. I'm a tiebreaker too on the board when it comes to voting. So that's where I'm at right now.
Thank you, Charlie. One thing definitely is clear that people who experienced the COVID years, hey Bill, it had to change how they were providing education in the beekeeping community.
Yeah, because of the COVID years, prior to that, we had what was it called, FaceTime or something like that, or and I was like, what is that? And I would say, and it was like, why would you want to do that? And then of course after COVID, now it's a common practice.
Yeah, I think that was Zoom.
All right, let's jump over, Joey, and do introductions on the top right-hand corner.
Hello. Now. Hi, I'm Melissa and Tom Sossman. We are in the St. Louis area, and we run Via Honeybees. We've been beekeeping since 2018-ish. And so just before COVID started, we were never really part of a club until after COVID. And we actually were a little bit reluctant to join a club just because it was, I don't know, just a stereotypical thing that we just weren't interested in. We had visited a club meeting and they were this is how you beekeep. This is the only way to beekeep. And there's no other, and it just kind of turned us off of clubs altogether. When we were coming out of COVID, we were asked to sit in on the local Eastern Missouri Beekeepers Association club meeting because obviously during COVID, everything kind of shut down, as did they. I don't even know if they were doing Zoom meetings. I can't recall because we weren't part of the club at that point. So we were asked to sit in on their board meetings to kind of get the club back together. And we're like, yeah, we kind of had to be talked into it because we were reluctant because of our experience before. And so we did. We sat in on the club meetings, and there was maybe like 10 of us to start, I guess, at that initial meeting, and kind of rewrote the bylaws because they needed to be updated all together as the group. We were there, club, and then the club voted on it. And after that initial group of people getting back together, we kind of had a new board members, and I was elected to be vice president, and you were the program coordinator, correct? And that was 3 years ago.
Yeah, I think so.
And then just this fall, we had our elections again, and our board president, he stepped down to spend time with his family and had some health issues going on. So I stepped up into the president position, and Tom is continuing with his program coordinator position. And we don't offer any Zoom meetings because we wanted to get people back to getting together and interacting with one another. So we do in-person meetings every month. And right now we're actually in the process of finishing up planning our annual workshop that'll be at the end of February. So it's a busy time for us right now. Anything you want to add to that?
Go ahead, Brian.
I was going to say, and I would love to interview you, Melissa, when I'm in St. Louis, Melissa and Tom, actually, on some planning considerations for big events. You definitely have had a couple years of experience on doing large beekeeping club events, and that's a conversation I want to have for another time, but definitely an important conversation to have as you're a leader in one of these clubs. Oftentimes one of your roles is an event planner, and sometimes that event is a monthly meeting, and the planning can have certain components, and other times it can be an entire weekend, and that can have other components as well.
Definitely so.
Yeah. All right, Bill, we are going through and taking roll for our meeting tonight. Can you introduce yourself and talk about the officer roles you have fulfilled in your experience?
Bill Gardner. I've been keeping bees since 1970. I about 5 years ago. I was the first vice president of Virginia State Beekeepers Association. Worked with the conference committee, set up 2 separate conferences for them. Then I moved into the president's position for 2 years. And then that was a show. Let's put it that way. That was a show. And it was challenging. It tried my patience a lot of days. And then now I'm the past president and I edit the newsletter for him.
Right on. Thank you. Welcome, Bill. My name is Brian. You can see I am from Flower Street Farm here in Lakewood, Colorado. I am also a fairly new president of the Colorado State Beekeepers Association. I started out my officer career as a secretary for the Mile Hive Bee Club, a local club here in Denver. Graduated up to the vice president's position, then transferred over to an advisor position at the state level, then graduated up to vice president. This past end of September, beginning of October, our president abruptly stepped down for health reasons, putting me in charge of the Colorado State Beekeeping Association. And it's created, I'll be honest, it's created challenges. So the reason that I've requested this conversation and reached out to people in the community is because of what I know about this community. It's such a supportive community. We're here to help each other. We're here to teach each other. We're here to help each other be successful. And I hope in my sharing experiences in these chats, I've helped other people get ideas on how they can be successful as a beekeeper. I hope these conversations can help the beekeepers who are thinking about leadership roles in their communities. Just think about some of the things that I've been thinking about and maybe learn from the experiences that people who have done it before and have done it differently have. So what I'm going to do is kind of facilitate a conversation. I'm going to throw some questions out there and let the conversation go where it will. I'd love to hear your experiences, your thoughts and disagreements, and how things work and how things don't work. Oh, I do want to say I invited a couple other people. If any of you saw my thumbnail for tonight, it was the classic dogs playing poker around the table. I invited our good friend Brad Hogg from Manitoba to join our conversation, and he was unable to join us because he was busy. In fact, he sent this picture. How apropos is this? So those are the 2 vice presidents of his club. They're getting together and meeting and having a little kind of local leaders. Look at Winston Churchill in the background there. Come on. How classic.
Looks like they're at some sort of cigar bar there.
Right. So you could tell Brad's in his happy place for sure.
Yeah.
So we miss you, Brad. We always love your sage advice and wisdom. Maybe next time we do a President's Lounge kind of conversation, you can join us. All right. So let me see if I can get back to where I should be. All right. Is that right? You guys see it good?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, you're good.
I'm learning baby steps. And Charlie, I made you admin for this. So in case you can see anything that you can help with on the tech end, that'd be awesome.
I don't have any controls in front of me.
Okay. All right. So I want to start kind of with something that Melissa talked about. A lot of people, we've heard on these chats, a lot of people have very different experiences with local clubs wherever they are in the United States or Canada. My question to you is, imagine that beekeeper, maybe a new beekeeper looking for a local club to call a home, or maybe someone who just moved into a new area looking for a club. How can that person know that the club that they're walking into and experiencing is a good club, and vice versa? How can that person know that it might not be such a good club? You talked about that, Melissa, when when first experiencing a clubs, you could tell it wasn't the right
Mhm.
learning situation or community for you. What advice do you have for that beekeeper out there who's looking for a club? How do you know it's a good club that's going to support the members?
Well, firstly, it needs to be inviting when you walk in. Not everybody all clicky and so with our club, we make it a point that all of the board members are moving about, greeting people when they walk in, not just hold up in one little area, clicky together or hanging out with their beekeeper friend. We want them, greeting everybody as they walk in. And of course, we all get pulled into conversations, but that's great. That's why we're there, to have conversations, to give people advice and things like that. We just want to make sure that if we see somebody that we've not noticed at a meeting before, that somebody is greeting them, somebody's welcoming them into the door. Our club also always has some sort of snacks or treats or something like that available for people to come. It's all about, making a more welcoming atmosphere. We also try to make sure that when we're bringing, and Tom can talk about this more, bringing speakers in, that we kind of meet everybody where their needs are, not just doing the exact same thing every March or doing the exact same thing every June. Obviously there's things that you have to talk about every year on a schedule because that's just how beekeeping goes. But you can talk about those things at multiple levels or bringing different people in to speak about them, kind of things like that. What's your...
Yeah, so I just want to hit on one thing that I think resonates with me just a little bit. So I would say probably my favorite position within a club is exactly the position that I carry, as far as the, being able to set up the program itself. I get to network with everybody, which is kind of like my happy place, if you will. I do love to have conversations with people. I mean, most people in this chat who are in here actually know who I am. For anybody that might be watching it there after the fact that doesn't know us, like Melissa mentioned earlier, we're part of the Eastern Missouri Beekeepers Association and as well as the Missouri State Organization too. I don't know if she mentioned that.
No, I didn't.
But I think like one thing that Melissa said is meeting people where they're at. So I would urge people who are in a position of board authority within a club. It's very, very easy, like she said, to sit and be very, very cliquey with your friends, with the other board members, and et cetera. There was one time a lady said at one of our meetings, and I don't know that I specifically thought that we did this, but if that's somebody's perspective, who am I to tell them different? They had suggested that she didn't think that, and this is I've only heard this one time, said, well, I just didn't feel very welcome. And I thought, you know what? I wonder if that could have been a night that we all might have been, didn't notice it, but might have been being a little bit cliquey. And so I had suggested in the meetings, I said, I think what we need to do as a board, we come at this as board members, offering our time and our services, obviously no compensation, but we need to come at this with a heart of service, basically. So having said that, I'm like, what I try to purposely do is I seek out the people that I don't recognize, the people that tend to be sitting by themselves or just a couple sitting still, nobody around them. Those are the people that I seek out. So my goal is to make everyone there feel welcome. So I just kind of wanted to start with that. But like Melissa said, too, meeting the club members where they're at. Not everybody is at a great experience level. So we have to kind of coach them along. Most of the people within our club, I kind of know and understand them. We don't have any commercial beekeepers. So it doesn't make sense for me as the program coordinator to bring in all commercial beekeepers talking about commercial aspects. I would love myself to hear those and to understand those, but it doesn't make sense. That's not my position to bring people in for me. It's the club as a whole. So I would just say we need to keep that in perspective as leaders of our club and as people who are stewards of these areas to bring the best education, but not just the best education, but also our best mindset. Sometimes be open to new ideas, I would suggest, even though there's certain things that we may have tried and they don't work. We could always entertain thoughts. Doesn't mean we have to apply them, but maybe we could make suggestions in ways. So there's definitely ways to approach things where we don't have to be very close-minded about it. And sometimes that's easy to do as we get further along in our beekeeping journey. So I don't know. I think those are a couple of strong points that maybe we tend to overlook as board members in these positions, and maybe we shouldn't, because again, everybody comes at this with a different experience level and a different idea of how much they're planning on contributing. The last thing I'll say is your bee club is a prime example of the effort you guys as board members put in. You will get out of it what is put in. If you put in little, the beekeeping club is probably going to produce very little, and you may not have great attendance. You may not have great turnout. If you put in a lot, sometimes you still don't get copious amounts of people, but you have to be a cheerleader for what it is that you're doing. Create excitement, and that's how you kind of cheerlead people along. So I don't know. Those are a few things I thought that are probably very pertinent to what we do as leaders within the community and the club.
Well, I have to add too, because you asked as a new beekeeper coming in, one of the other things that our club does is we have a mentorship program. So as long as you've taken a beginning beekeeper course, you can get hooked up. We'll assign a mentor to you, and that's a free of charge thing. And then we also have a learning yard that twice a month, if you're a member of the club, you can go up to that learning yard and get your hands on the bees, and there'll be one person up there is a Great Plains master beekeeper that's up there running the yard. And then I don't know, Kate, I don't know if she has a master, but she's
Very qualified.
She's a veterinarian. And she's been beekeeping forever. So she knows what she's doing too. So there's leadership there to help people in the yard and to get their hands in bees and stuff like that. So
I got a response to a couple of the points you guys just made. First, that welcoming learning environment. Here's a shout out to Pat Kittleson, wherever she is. She moved somewhere to Montana a couple of years ago. She was one of the founding members of the Mile Hive Bee Club. When I joined that bee club, she was like the social butterfly, that person who went from person to person, to couple, sitting in the chairs, waiting for the meeting to get started, making sure everyone was talked to, making sure everyone was greeted, making sure everyone was welcome. She was like a librarian for a children's, in a children's section of the library. So she was just welcoming and fun and bubbly and just one of those great personalities. There have been times in my role in a local club where I'm scrambling to prepare for that meeting. I'm setting up chairs, I'm setting up table, I'm getting the technology ready, I'm looking for this, I'm looking for that. And there have been times where I know I wasn't paying attention to the people coming into the room because I was trying to prepare for the event and not thinking about those people. So there can be times where it's super helpful that you have a person assigned to that role of being that welcoming person to that new couple, that new person, that those people that might not know other people. Tom, you mentioned something about your role, and this is a conversation we've had before too. Not everyone has the same skill sets that they bring to a board, and it is really helpful to find the right people for the right role. Tom, your position is perfect for you. Anyone that knows you knows you're a huge people person, love to talk to people, love to get to know people, and that's what you do well. And to have you as the person who is doing the outreach to talk to all the people is a perfect role. I'm going to guess maybe the treasurer is not the right role for Tom Stossman, right? With all the skill sets we know you bring to the table, maybe that's not something that's naturally what you have. Not that you couldn't acquire those skill sets, but as a natural skill set already, that's something you bring to the table. That's an experience I had as an officer as I've jumped from role to role. Some roles were very easy for me to fulfill because the skill sets that I had either developed or were pretty natural in me fit perfectly for that role. As the secretary, I wasn't great at it, but as an elementary teacher for 20 years, I had plenty of experiences working on a website, responding to emails. There was a lot of overlap in the communication part that happened that way. When I moved to vice president, that was when our president was quite ill, and I was kind of like doing a lot of the facilitating of all the meetings. That's my jam. I can stand up and talk, throw a topic at me. I can talk about it all day long. I can facilitate a conversation and make sure everyone's voice. I can do that. That's what I've done as an elementary teacher, right? As an advisor for the state, as the vice president for the state, again, my skill sets really matched what I was doing, and I've been able to do some really cool things to it. And then I find myself in the role as president. And the responsibilities of the president are very different than other responsibilities that I've had to fulfill in a board on a beekeeping club. It's much more about the business of how to run a nonprofit as opposed to providing an educational service for beekeepers. Man, I'm a teacher. That's what I've been my whole life. I can do that all day long. That's what got me probably to the presidency of the Colorado State Beekeeping Association. But now I find myself with a role and a responsibility and some skill sets that match it pretty well, and a realization that I've got to build some skill sets to be able to do this. Things like understanding Robert's rules, understanding how to run a meeting, how to run a board meeting on a monthly basis, how to run a huge meeting on a semi-annual basis. Those are different things. I don't know how different it is from a local to a state level. Our state association isn't the hugest. I'm sure there are local clubs bigger than our state association, but that was definitely a huge realization for me. Stepping into most of these roles, it was like, okay, I got this. Stepping into this role, it was definitely a huge understanding that I have a lot of personal growing to do to be able to be a really effective president. So I don't know if anyone wants to respond to that. That was a little bit of a soapbox there.
Well, two things to go along with Melissa's the opening question. Typically, new beekeepers, the first place they'll go to is a
I don't know if we
Did it
froze.
freeze up?
Yeah, it's a secret. He's gonna keep us waiting.
Might have lost Bill there for a minute.
I'm back.
Okay,
Oh, he's back. Okay, Bill. We got
let us in on your secret. Where are the new beekeepers going?
They're going to come to a bee shop if there's a bee shop locally, and they're going to ask you. You get the owner or the operator of the shop will get to talking to them like I do, and I was a member of 4 clubs. Now I'm a member of 3. And I'm in the middle of the Shenandoah Valley, so I'm centrally located. And I'll ask them where they live. And I'll direct them to a bee club that, number one, fits their personality, and it's close to where they live.
So, Bill, I find that hilarious because, like I said before, Tom and I didn't join a club for our first several years as beekeepers because we pretty much lived at the local bee shop.
Yeah.
And we should have had a bed in the back of her store. And
Yep.
she's actually the one who reached out to the EMBA and told them, hey, you should talk to Tom and Melissa about joining and getting the club, back on its feet. So that's kind of how that all facilitated through actually the local bee shop. So anyway, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I just
You're
found
fine.
that funny.
But that's the kind of things that I get as a bee shop owner. And then when you introduce yourself and I would tell them I'm the president of the state association. oh, well, what about this B club or that B club? And you can kind of guide people, toward the better clubs. So, and when I stepped into the first vice president role, I've run a business for years. It was like running like you said, a nonprofit, because the president at the time didn't really do a lot. She would facilitate the meetings, but she didn't do any of the business side of it. So then when I moved to president, I ran the state association like you would run a business. And I established a lot of policies that the president that came in after me kept and has continued them on. So you got to kind of run things like a business. You can't just say, oh, I'm going to do this or I'm going to do that. I want to do this. I want to do that. No, you have to have a plan. When you're the president, you're the planner. You are the facilitator for the business side of that club. So there's going to be things that you'll do that people don't like. And there are going to be things that you will do that people will love. And you try to reach that happy medium, and you're going to make mistakes. You got to learn from your mistakes really, really quick, because you have a limited amount of time.
Yeah.
So we got a lot done in 2 years. We've revamped the Master Beekeeper. We revamped the Master Beekeeper program. We brought portions of it online. They're going to be tested online instead of in person. And just education in general was my goal to get revamped and redone, along with some disciplinary policies. Brian, you and I have talked about that one.
Yes, sir.
So
Still on the plate, Bill.
Yep. And Robert's Rules of Order, like Brian mentioned, it's great reading for a snowy day. It really is. Robert's Rules of Order, 12th edition, not the online version, but the imprint book that's about that thick. It's really good reading for a snowy day. It gives you a lot of good insight.
He's got it right there.
It's a great cure for insomnia as well, Bill.
Yep, it is.
But I want to mention that, Bill was at head of the Virginia State Club, statewide.
Yeah.
Brian, you're statewide.
Yeah.
You're not the local club guy.
Right.
Or vice president. I mean, I was the president of the local club, not the Maryland State Club.
Right.
Sure.
Now, something that I found talking with Bill is that it seems like the state club kind of governs the local clubs in education or whatever. In Maryland, it's not that way at all. It's up to the local club, period. Like my club, we went through the local college, community college. They got half the money. The club got half the money. And when that person got done the 6-week course, I guess it was, they had the first year with their money that they paid to the college. Part of it we got from the college. That gave them their first year dues, I guess you would call it. They're a member for 1 year. That's part of joining the club and everything. And I think that, and it also depends on, each state that you're in, on how all this stuff intertwines, as far as, I don't know what the Colorado State Bee Club does versus the local, where you have your local club.
That's interesting, because when we went to Colorado, what was it, 2 years ago when we spoke up there, Brian, a year and a half ago?
A couple years.
And we kind of learned about how Colorado State runs, and it's so different. Like, that was just so interesting to me, how different Colorado State runs versus how Missouri State runs. Like, it was, the way that they do their swarm stuff, the way that the clubs join the state association, not the individuals. And you're as an individual join the state association because your club has joined the state association, right, Brian? Isn't that how you guys kind of do it?
Well, there are local clubs that are affiliated with CSBA, the state association. If they are affiliated with the CSBA, they receive certain services like being on our swarm hotline, certain educational opportunities, breaks on entry fees for our meetings, that kind of stuff. You also don't have to be a member of a local club. You can be an independent member of CSBA, not affiliated to a local club.
And now
And
see, with us, you can be a member of the local club. And as I am a member of the state club.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
but the local club isn't a member of the, or they're part of.
That's
Part
kind of
of
the way we are. We're kind of separated.
So we also have several clubs who choose not to be affiliated because part of the affiliation is a $7 fee per member. So if I pay $25 to the Mile Hive Bee Club for their annual membership dues, 7 of those dollars go to the CSBA to fund our budget. So that's basically the system. We don't have a lot of clubs. Colorado is huge, but more than half of our clubs are in the Front Range area. There are 13 affiliated clubs. I can think of 2 formal clubs that are non-affiliated and a couple of kind of informal groups that meet in some less populated areas.
Our
Yeah,
club
speak.
falls somewhere in there. Our first year we started, there was a guy came in, he was a top bar guy, and he donated a few hives and did drawings for it. And he gave that money, any money made from those drawings, he donated it to the club. But it was recommended by, she's gone now, but passed away, but she was actually the vice president of the Louisiana Beekeepers Association, but she was a member of our club. And she recommended to us, she said, if y'all want to start a budget and get dues, that's fine. But it throws another kink in everything. And she said, I recommend right now that you don't. And she said, you got money now, but when you start handling money, there's more responsibilities that you have to entail.
Yeah.
So what we did, and I don't know if there's still anything left in the budget or not. We've been just kind of using it up a little along, but we don't take dues. Our local club, we don't take dues at all. And we're kind of affiliated with the Louisiana Beekeepers Association. We're somewhere in the middle there. It's hard for me to explain. If Mike was here, he probably could explain it a little bit better because they recognize us as a club, but we're a little different from some of the other clubs in Louisiana.
Well, if you don't take dues, then how do you do anything? How do you afford to buy anything?
Well,
As a
we
club.
don't need to buy anything.
Well, you have a space that you have to rent. to
Well,
have a meeting?
we're allowed to use the LSU Ag Centers. We have free access to it every month.
Well, that makes sense,
And-
Joey.
And I'm the self-proclaimed coffee bar. I fund that. Sometimes I get a little help from somebody, but
You financially fund that?
yeah, that
And how many members do you have in this club?
it's small. Probably we have 15 regulars, maybe. That's a good number that we have regulars. There's probably 25, 30 members on the membership.
Okay.
What I tell everybody, I say it jokingly, but when a new person comes and they ask if there's any kind of fees or anything, we say no, but you're automatically a member just by coming. And if you come next month, you qualify for president. That's one of our unwritten rules.
So
You know, which-
I liken local bee club politics to volunteer fire department politics. If you're there,
Yeah.
You're not likely to get elected. If you don't show up for a meeting, that's when you're going to get elected to an office.
That's it.
But most of the local clubs in Virginia, it's a $10 a year due per person. And then the state's $10 a year. And the state has, last time I looked at the rolls, it was like 1,400 people on the rolls.
So your local clubs, Bill, does the club set that $10 fee, or is that a state?
Yeah, that's club sets it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Bill, what does a Virginia beekeeper get by joining the state for their $10?
Well, they're bringing back. They did a quarterly Zoom with different speakers. You get that. You have a conference once a year where you can go, and there's other activities during the year that they're going to start doing again, because we just, for years, it didn't get done since COVID. So they're bringing a lot of things back this year, like summer fun days and stuff like that, quarterly fun days around the state, and just fellowship.
Thank you.
And of course, anybody that's a member of the state has access to everybody's email in the state, and they can contact anybody they want at any time to ask advice, buy queens, whatever they want. And there's a lot of educators in the state. You have access to Master Beekeeping, the program, which is free. You get a reduction in cost to the Cornell course by a third. So it's well worth it. I mean, the benefits that you get, it's well worth it.
Yeah. Do you feel like your state association does a good job of communicating those benefits with its members?
For the most part, yes.
Okay. What do you mean for the most part? Crack that open.
They have their naysayers that go against it, because some of the people in the state association are members, wholehearted, diehard members of EAS, Eastern Apiculture Society, EAS.
Yep.
And they think, they feel that they are the quote unquote mothership to all of the state associations east of the Mississippi, and they're not. So
Our state dues are like $20, I think it is, a year.
yeah.
So just like Virginia, Joey, you can join a local club and then join a state club separately.
You don't have to belong to a local club at all. You can do it either way.
Gotcha. But joining the local club does not automatically affiliate you with the state.
Correct.
You've got to do that separately.
Not ours anyway.
Well, talk about that same question. What does someone who lives in Louisiana get with that $20 that goes to the state association?
I guess you get that voice. You have access to things they have going on, but I guess it's typical with any state. Other things they have going on beekeeping is probably another paid class you go to.
Yeah.
As a member, you still have to pay for that class.
Yeah.
But you have access to those things.
Do you have a lobbyist at your state legislature?
I can't. I don't know what we have at this time. That's a good Mike Berry question.
Yeah, that's something that Virginia does. We have a representative of the State Beekeepers Association that lobbies the state legislature.
I know we did, when a friend of mine was up there, we did. I don't know if and who is there now.
Bill, what was the most recent topic that lobbyist was interacting with the politicians about?
There is a county down in Southwest Virginia that is I want to say almost 100% forested.
Okay.
And they have a lot of problems with the They used to be called gypsy moths. And they spray with helicopters down there. And there's no warning when they're going to spray. They just come in and spray.
Okay.
And they've been trying to get them to use B-check down there and they're trying to get legislation through to force the commercial sprayers to use B-check to identify locations of hives. So that was the last thing, one of the last things they were working on when I was still president. And of course it got voted down. So now it has to wait a complete year before it can be brought up again, which means 2027. So
getting into politics and political influence is definitely it's a conversation we've had as a 501c3 nonprofit. There are certain rules and regulations around what kind of political influence you can try to assert versus education and presenting education. Different nonprofit statuses allow your organization to do different things. Do all of your folks' clubs are they all nonprofits?
they're supposed to be in the state.
That was one of the things that I was able to do in my presidency is it was talked about for years, as vice president and as a member to become a 501c3. So in the last 5 years of presidency, I finally was able to get connected to the right people to guide us through that process. And we finally got a 501c3 at the local level.
Why was that important, Charlie? How is that club better? Because now it has that 501c.
The 501c, you get, you're non-taxable.
Okay.
And our club does a lot of in-house things for our members. Our club's about 250 people. We, for a while there as vice president, we were getting grants from the local government. It was sort of like a farm grants, we get $5,000 grant. And we would take that money. We had to write and tell them what we're going to do with it. We subsidize like one of our members who was on the board of directors said, hey, let's put our money where our mouth is about helping people keep their bees alive by subsidizing their mite asides that they would use on their hives. And the grants helped about, some of those times we were subsidizing 50% of whatever they were buying. And we would get a certain different products at the time. This is what we were going to buy. Who wants what, how much, and you would pay whatever it is minus 50%. Now here recently, it's more, the grants all dried up, and the club still does that, not at 50%. That varied from one year to the next, depending on money and all that. And we do with a discount from a provider, miticide provider, and probably 30%, but it's like whatever it is, the discount of the product because we're buying in bulk. Plus we'll take 10%, and then you don't have to pay the taxes. So you kind of calculate it somewhere around 20 to 30%. And that's one of the perks, I guess you would call it. We do bulk buying of honey bottles, glass and plastic, because we happen to be close to Gamber Bottling Company up in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. We do bulk purchase of sometimes fondant if it's available, big 50-pound blocks. And we do purchases of not all the time, but sometimes sugar, 50-pound bags of sugar, or 20 for 20. I think it's either 20 or 25-pound bags of sugar. Now those are a wash where we save we go out and get it. We have a member that's got a trailer that they bring it to the designated give out location, and it's all prepaid for, and you save on a bulk purchase, and you also save the fact that you don't have to go and get it yourself.
And is it the treasurer that manages the logistics of a bulk order like that?
Yeah, well, there's different people on the boards that will. The treasurer makes sure we got the money, in the credit card area, and then we hit the let's say Gamber, but let's say Gamber's $5,000. We make sure that we got $5,000, and we can swipe the credit card up there.
There was a new pollen product that was marketed at the Tampa conference. There was a speaker on it. They had a booth there. I forget the name of the product. The data looked really promising. I went and talked to the booth guy there. And currently this year, as they're rolling it out, they're only selling pallets. And he was trying to talk me into, as the state rep, to buy a pallet and then distribute it myself to Colorado beekeepers. And I'm like, I'm not working for free for you. I'm not going to be your distributor. Hey, Brad, I'm so glad you could join us. We shared your picture at the beginning as we were taking roll for this meeting. We thought it was very apropos.
I'm glad I got to join you. Yeah, it is appropriate. That's part of it, is the community, right? And these two guys have become two of my best friends. We have a really good time together.
Yeah.
Where's my cigar?
Yeah, right.
I smoked it for you. It was really good, Joey.
Okay, was it good?
Yeah, it was good. I'm not a smoker, but I burned back one little stogie. That was okay. Not really my thing. I kind of smell like it now, but it was fun.
So
fun
Brad,
hanging out with guys.
Charlie was just talking about benefits that clubs offer to their members, and Charlie was just talking about his experiences organizing bulk orders for the club. And I want to slow down on bulk orders a little bit, and then I want to go back to treasurers and how they help in the role of a club.
I apologize. I didn't get much supper, so you're gonna have to
go for it, Brad.
Let me answer your question, Brad. Or Brian was.
Yeah.
I got one guy who was another past president, and he's retired, and he facilitates sending the email. When he was under me, he was my email man. His job was emails, and he would put out an email for, hey, all right, we've got a doodle. I think one of them computer things where you check off what you want. And he organized that bulk purchase of, the miticides or the sugar or whatever, and coordinated. And then we had another guy that went and got it because he had the truck and the trailer. And then we set up a date where we distributed it and that kind of stuff. And then to kind of backpedal a little bit on our meetings, you were talking about greeting people. I guess what we've been here recently doing was a half hour prior to the main meeting starting. It's where all the newbies come on in. Let's sit down as a little small group and questions and answers, and see if we can help you with where you're stuck at in your beekeeping world and that kind of thing. And that you kind of know who we average 30 some people in a meeting, most likely, unless it's this coming month is going to be a tasting thing like we normally have. And, so that's when the room will be solid full with people, but on average 30 people, and, we catch them a half an hour prior to that and talk to them and stuff. So that's kind of where we're at with our meetings and stuff. The state meetings, you were talking about that. There's 3 or 4 meetings. I think there's either 3 or 4 meetings per year. They offer some paid classes that you have to pay to go to some of their classes.
Yeah.
When I first started out, you didn't have Nobby and places like that. And they would bring in Larry Connors and a Michael Palmer, or the last one that I think I can remember live coming in was the guy that's does oxalic acid down in Florida.
Cameron Jack.
Cameron Jack, he was there, but that was right after COVID. And it was like, I was embarrassed the fact that there was hardly anybody there for that guy. And then also the same day you had, what's the guy that Master Beekeepers on Thursdays, I think it is, out in the Midwest there. Burns.
David Burns.
David
Burns. Yeah.
Yeah, he drove in, and I'm like, it wasn't that many people there, type of thing. But anyway, that's kind of how things are in our club area.
Thanks, Charlie. One thing I heard in your description of bulk orders is multiple people had a role to play, but everybody knew their role.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I
mean,
that's
usually
really
there was
important.
a couple people that coordinated together. You
Yeah.
had, like Harry did all the emails, got all the people ordered in, and you had to, they had to, you had this, you got 4 weeks to get your check in, and to pay for the stuff, and then after that, he would coordinate with the guy picking stuff up, and then coordinate with the treasurer to make sure because we have a limit on our credit cards, so we can pre-order from the bank to put certain amount of money in there. If we already know what it's going to cost us, let's say $5,000. All right, we're going to put a $5,500 in the credit card, if something goes wrong or whatever. So
Charlie, as a president of a club, did you have a debit or credit card to be able to go make purchases?
Oh yeah, we had at
at
least 2 credit cards.
Yeah. Who else?
I had a credit card, and I forget who else would have one. Either the vice president. They might have had 2, maybe 3 credit cards, and it was only assigned to them.
Is that true for everyone else?
So we have 2.
We
as
have
soon as
none.
I get to the bank next week, I'll have one, and then the treasurer will have one.
Yep.
And then and the checkbook's the same way. Myself.
Yeah, that's great, Melissa.
and the treasurer.
It would when I went to the bank, it was me as the president had a card, and the treasurer had a card,
Yeah.
and all that.
We
But
don't
I
do
will-
credit cards in ours. We really don't have a use for that. Any expenses that can't be paid by check, usually just whoever's kind of managing that committee, if I can use that term, will just expense that. They'll just put it on their personal card and expense it. Because a lot of our expenses, certainly the bigger stuff, is all taken care of by the treasurer directly with a check.
Mm-hmm.
So
Brad, for example, you're planning a meeting. In fact, you have a meeting coming up really, really soon, don't you?
the 10th, I think, the 10th of February.
Yeah, and man, what a lineup you guys have going this year. So congratulations on that. You've got a lot of great voices.
Well, don't convince my. I'm president of Red River Association. Don't confuse that with the Manitoba Beekeeper Association, which
Gotcha.
puts
That's
on
what
the
I
big
was doing.
the
Thank you.
convention. Yeah,
That's
I mean,
what
I
was
am
doing.
still a director, but I'm stepping back from that this year, so
Okay.
I'm not
Okay.
really very involved.
So here's a scenario for your club. You're planning an event 6 months out. You have communicated with a venue. You've talked to that person. You've got a contract. What does the payment of that contract look like? Who does that? How is that done?
Well, most of that I think would be handled directly by the treasurer.
Yeah. Who would handle the Who would handle the communication with that venue? Is that like an event planner or a president's job, or is that the treasurer's as well?
Yeah, honestly, I try to keep the president's job as very little as possible because for different reasons. I've seen quite often in organizations where the president or the manager or whoever that might be kind of just ends up doing everything, and then they burn out and they run away. They step back and they won't do it. So, I don't know if it's a very flattering term to use, but even in business, I consider myself more of a person who leads from behind, right? It's not like war where I'm sending my people out to get killed in the front line. It's more like they're the face of the organization, not me, right? I don't need my ego in the front. And I find that when you find It's interesting that this comes up because I find that I was just talking to a friend about this when I was leading a team in the IT job I was in. I found that you can find the things that people are good at and the things that people like to do. Of course, there's still a job to do. They have to do the job. That they will amaze you, and they'll be so happy because they love doing what they love to do, and they love doing what they're good at, right? So I love to be able to find that out. And I said that to a friend, and he said, "Yeah, but now you manage bugs, and they don't listen to you." And I thought about that for a second. I said, it's exactly the same thing, because I find out what the bees want to do, and I say, "Let's do that. You want to make honey? Okay, let's make honey." Right? You want to swarm? You want to make queens? Let's make queens. Right? Let's do what they want to do. Let's just amplify that. Let's get on board with that. And it's not really about me. I mean, I still have to kind of steer the ship, but I can't steer it the opposite way that people want to go.
Yeah.
Right.
You can't push a rope up ahead.
Yeah. And so when it comes to something like that, and we did last year, like just over a year ago, we did a swag purchase, t-shirts, jackets, hats, stuff like that. And it went really well. But whenever we do something like that, somebody comes up with an idea, I put it out there and I say, okay, do you guys as an association want to do this? And all the hands go up. Yeah. Okay. Find somebody to do it. Right? If I don't get a person to step forward and say, I'll lead this, then we're not going to do it. Because I'm not going to burn all my time and energy trying to find that person. You got to step up. And I'm not going to do it. Right? So that really draws people into volunteerism and getting involved. We've had a really good response to that. Boy, we have a good team right now.
Now, are they on the board of directors?
No, we will form a committee if it's something new. We'll form a committee. So we'll say, Jim Bob wants to be the point person for this. You need a point person. I would say, okay, he's a point person. And then we'll say, we want 2 or 3 more people to be on this committee. And then we'll have people to, step up to that. And usually tell you, like, people usually don't put their hand up in the meeting, but they'll phone you afterward or something, right? Hey, I think I'm interested in that. Okay. It's somehow intimidating that if they put their hand up in the meeting, they think I'm locked in, right? Kind of thing. So I've learned that blindsided me. I didn't expect that. I expected people to put their hand up in the meeting, and if they didn't put their hand up in the meeting, they weren't going to do it. But that's not the way it seems to work. They'll email you a week later or the next day and say, yeah, I think I want to do that. So I just, okay, do it. You guys do it. If you need any help, you let me know. If there's anything you need help with, you let me know. Otherwise, you do the thing, right? Empower people. And it's amazing what they'll come up with. Incredible.
Brad, one of my overarching questions as I embark in this part of my beekeeping career is what makes an effective president/leader, what makes an effective leader? And you hit on one of those things.
Well, I've been asking myself that for 3 years. So I'm glad you put together this group.
And I know it really well, but sometimes it's hard in the moment. That idea of a leader as a facilitator and not the person who does everything. I've seen that mistake happen before, of that person who can't count on or rely on the people around, or doesn't feel comfortable letting go of responsibilities.
Or just feels, it's easier if I do it. And
that's right.
I really discourage that. Like, even if it's even if it's coffee,
that's right.
Oh, I'll just make the coffee. No.
Yeah.
No.
There you go, Joey.
My VP, he's been there a long time. He was president when I took over. He recruited me. He got me. We were friends before, and he recruited me. And he said, we don't want you doing any of that, because when we go to a monthly meeting, we want you networking. We want you welcoming people. We want you talking to people. We don't want you busy at anything, right?
Good.
And that's what they want from me as an association in those meetings. So they take. I got two VPs, as you saw in the picture. Actually, the one guy has just stepped back, so he's not technically VP as of like a couple weeks ago. But we've got a really great young fella who's our new VP. This was more of a friends thing than it was a association thing. So yeah, and it's hard. Sometimes it's hard. It's kind of like, yeah, I'll just do that. No. I totally discourage that. Don't do it. Make them do it.
Yeah.
You know, I come from a small club compared to all of y'all's, but I was when I took over as, I'm not gonna say took over as vice president, because I just kind of like just stayed in the loop a little bit and let the president run it the year he took it. But the first lady in our club, when it was brand new, she just started the meeting. She'd find somebody to come talk. And then another guy took it if I would be his vice president. And I said, yeah, I'll do that. So he took it and he just did things. Well, when he got impeached, I shouldn't say that. But he did. Then I ended up with it. I started off doing it the way I was trained in Robert's Rules of Order. You brought that in the picture earlier. I opened the meeting, called it to order, and I asked if the lady that was the secretary at the time, she sent an email out with what few comments we had from the last meeting, any motions or anything that were done. And I would ask, just like in Robert's Rules of Order, if everybody read them, if they approved of them, and blah, 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 on down the road.
Yep.
But she would also put what was talked about in there. And that went on when I was president. That went on for several months. And she was always putting not only the agenda or the motions that were made or in the planning, she was putting the topic in there, almost word for word if she could.
She was the secretary.
She was the secretary. And then she asked me one day.
So Joey, sorry, is this at your monthly club meeting or is this at a board meeting?
This was a monthly club meeting.
Okay.
And, and when I was getting everybody to ask them if they were agreed to the minutes, I was actually talking about the true minutes. Any motions made, any discussions, and that was it.
Corrections.
And come to find out, she was thinking that all that whoever talked and what they talked about that night, she thought all that had to be in there. And I said, no. I said, I thought you were just putting that in there because you wanted to. She said, oh, I've been trying to put it all in there because that's what they talked about. I said, you don't have to do that. Oh, thank goodness. She finally eased up and just put the actual motions and any amendments made.
It's interesting you say that, because our secretary does that. She's really good at it too. I'm blown away with her summaries, but she summarizes. Like, she'll take an hour and a half talk and bring it into a few bullet points. I love that. And she's really good.
I felt bad after several months, and I found out that she thought all that had to be in the minutes. Yeah. I just thought she was doing it because she could.
Yeah. Yeah, but now, Brad, are we recording, like, if you have a speaker, or are you recording your board meeting?
Well, okay, just to set the context straight, is when I talk about the Red River Association, of which I'm the president, we don't have a board particularly. We have an executive, which includes a few members, president, two vice presidents, and then a few other positions like secretary and
right. That's to us. To me, that's the board members.
That's a board.
Yeah,
it's a group of leaders that lead the association.
Yeah,
and run the association.
I'm differentiating it because it is a different structure than the board of the MBA that I'm on. It's a really a different structure, and that's why I draw a distinction between those two. So I just didn't want to mislead you as to what we are and what we're doing, right? So, and I'm sorry, Charlie, the essence of your question again was?
No, they were talking about you had a she was
Oh,
summarizing
so
the
was
meeting.
that the speaker?
I
Yeah.
presume that
well-
you're summarizing what the board members are talking
Well,
about,
we have
not the
we have-
club meeting.
yeah, we have our club meeting, and so every month. Well, what is it? 8. They have 8 meetings a year. So eight monthly meetings, and we'll have a business meeting, right? Because you have to, if there's anything to present to the membership, any votes that need to happen,
Right.
anything like that, then we'll have a business meeting. Sometimes a business meeting takes 10 minutes, and she'll record all those minutes, and then we'll have our speaker, and then she will summarize what the speaker talked about and whatnot, and maybe some of the QA too, if that was interesting. She'll do that, which is really great. But then we do have other meetings. We'll have occasional executive meetings, and she'll do the same minutes. We just had our budget meeting on Monday, actually. So she does minutes there, and those are just Zoom meetings because there's like 5
right.
of us or something.
That's how we do it. We have a board meeting on Zoom every month, and then the following week is our club meeting.
But the club, like our club meeting, includes the business part of the meeting,
Okay.
and then in January we have what we call the AGM, where we elect the executive for the coming year, right? In February, because we have our budget meeting after the AGM, then in February we have a budget presentation as well in the business portion, and then the membership gets to comment and question on the budget, and then we have to pass the budget for the year and get on with that.
So I find that interesting because, like, with our club, we do a monthly board meeting, which is the first Tuesday of every month, and the secretary takes notes and minutes and all that. But on the second Tuesday of every month is our club meeting, and we don't take any notes for that. There's no business meeting.
It's not a business part, yeah.
No, not at all. And that might be where the board from our club setup differentiates from your club setup. You know what I mean? We don't discuss any business at our regular club meetings. That's all.
So where does your membership then get input on how things go, like how things happen?
Yeah.
When are they asked to say, hey, do you want to do this? Yeah, let's do that.
It's all decided by the board.
So it's all board driven. Okay.
Yes, it's all board driven.
Which
And
is
then-
fair. That's a reason.
Yeah.
That's
And
just,
then that's what I'm saying. That's where our club structures kind of differentiate
Yeah.
there.
that's
Yeah,
kind of
and-
why I wanted to differentiate board from executive, because
Yeah.
we're a little different that way. We're not just board driven. We have executive meetings all the time. We say, hey, yeah, let's do this. This is a great idea. Let's do this. Yeah, we flesh it out. We work it out. And we say, okay, we're going to present this at the meeting next month. Right?
Mhm.
We
That's-
don't make that decision.
That's
Melissa-
where you can say when a member has something they want to complain about, you say, well, we have another position on the board for you right here.
That's exactly right.
But now, Melissa, don't you, if you're going, let's say, like Brad was thinking about doing, like these, like buying the miticides, or let's say like education. We need so many people to go to these schools and do an education thing. We'll bring that out to the club meeting and say, hey, we need some volunteers. But we'll do like Brad says. They won't normally raise their hand too much. What we'll say to them is like, email this person or contact the lead on that education committee
So
and help them out.
So, for example, I had somebody reach out just the other day from, I think it was a garden club or something in the local area, wanting a speaker for 2027.
Oh,
Yeah, they're planning out ahead, March of 2027. So
Yeah.
what we kind of usually do first is reach out to the board. Is anybody interested in going out and speaking to this club? And then if nobody is, then we'll kind of bring it up in a club meeting. Say, hey, we have this person, this garden club. They're wanting a speaker to cover whatever topic. If you're interested in doing that, they are willing to pay whatever the fee is. If that interests you, contact one of the board members so that we can get you in contact with this person. That's usually how we handle that. Well, I take that back. First, we'll go through the board, and then if nobody in the board wants to do it, we'll go to selected people that we know would be good at that specific topic to speak. Because if we're going to refer somebody to a club to speak, we want them to represent the club well also.
of course.
We just don't want any you know, anybody that's been keeping for 5 minutes to go talk about something we know they absolutely have no idea what they're talking about, just so they can get this fee, you know?
That's exactly how we do it too.
Yeah, so that's kind of how we handle something like that. And we
I mean-
get schools and garden clubs, you
Right.
know, and
that's
assisted living facilities wanting speakers all the time.
Yeah. First rule in business when referring, be cautious of who you refer. I don't refer anybody if I don't know them personally, know their work ethic, things like that. And I would say the same thing holds true with the non-for-profit, because you are actually putting your name out there on the line. So we actually started this last year, making a some sort of what's the word I'm looking for? Directory, if you will, of people who could be potential presenters, and you have to be somewhat vetted. And it's a very simple process, to be honest with you, but there really kind of needs to be something in place. If you're a club that's extremely small and you kind of know people one-on-one, maybe you don't need all these little efficiencies or these automations built in. But on a larger club scale, I would say sometimes that needs to be built in, much like what Brad was talking about, relying on people. You have to build automations into it. Capitalize on people's strengths. And that even goes for saying too, when I talked about meeting people in the club, chatting with them, getting to know them, you can start to understand very quickly, if you're an easy read of people, what their strengths are. And you keep that in your Rolodex in your mind. As they continue to show up, slowly get involved, you can go to them personally and say, hey, you should X, Y, and Z. And sometimes, again, like I talked about earlier, it's doing nothing more than being a big cheerleader. And again, for all these roles particular. So I don't know. I think that could be pertinent information too. So
I want a little example. I'm so tickled with this example that happened to me. I'll say happened to me because it's a huge help for me. It was a couple of years ago, I guess. There was a new beekeeper, contacted. She didn't contact me first, but she contacted somebody and said, "Hey, new member, new beekeeper, I want to get involved." And so that referral kind of came over to me, and so I forgot I called her up or whatever, and so just wanted to talk to her a bit to find out who she is, what she wants to do, and you know, her level of involvement and all that, and like she was ready to get involved in anything, you know, education or running the sound system or whatever, and then I was asking her what she did for a living, and through all that I found her skill set, and I said to her, "Do you want to be an executive assistant?" And she said, "Yeah, sure." And so she is fantastic. Wow. She's got a skill set. She's got organizational skills like crazy. And she's very efficient. She's very organized. I can just, you know, consult with her and say, "Hey, we want to have a meeting on this." And she's, "Okay, what do you want to do?" She'll do the agenda up. She'll email the executive and put it all together, find a day that works. And it's just like, wow, she's so efficient and highly skilled in those organizational things, which I am absolutely not. Like, I'm the worst organizational person as far as that goes. If you want to give me a task I absolutely hate, it's take, you know, 6 or 7 people and find a day that everybody can have a meeting. Like, boy, I hate that. She's really good at that.
Well, like Ryan said earlier, you know, not everybody has the same skill sets. Certain things we're all good at. And sometimes a skill set can be being an idea man or committee, and then finding people to implement those said ideas, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And at the beginning, I, you know, in one of my conversations with her, I said, you know, I'll apologize in advance because I'm kind of an idea guy, and I'll just puke ideas. And she said, "No problem, no sweat. We'll just take all those ideas and we'll just start, you know, knocking them off." And it's, wow, that's really awesome. So it's just yin and yang kind of thing, right? Two completely different skill sets.
Put me in the backstage, Brad, of Brian, and bring him in.
Well,
So-
somebody else.
One thing that I did as the president of the state association is when I came into office in 2023,
Hey, Todd.
we never planned ahead for a conference. Never. So what I did is the conference committee, I said, okay, 2023 is planned. You need to start on 2025. So 2024 went well. 2024 got washed out by the hurricane. So 2025 went well. They're now on 2028. 2026 and 2027 are planned. They're working on 2028 so that we get a better group of speakers that far out. We can get basically whoever we want as a speaker. So planning ahead does have its benefits. You just got to have people willing to put the work in to do it.
I have a question for you. When you plan that far ahead, how do you do that with a speaker when you can't secure dates for venues or things like that yet? Like how do you?
Venues are the first thing that are secured for that year. They secure the venue, then they secure the speaker. Most
So
speakers
you're securing venues 2 years out.
2 to 3 years out.
See, venues around here, they'll only do a year out.
Yeah, we can't
Yeah,
get
but the speakers, typically your speakers are booked 2 years out. The good ones, they're booked 2 years out. It's the conference that you go to that gets speakers the year of the conference. You may or may not get a good speaker if you do it that way.
So I want to tell a quick story about that. It's kind of how I jumped in as an advisor with the CSBA, and that's kind of what solidified Tom and Melissa and my friendship. Actually, it was around May, and I'd gotten voted on as an advisor in November, so it was a couple of months into my board position, and it was May, and we hadn't secured a speaker. Actually, two people are really key in this story, in this chat. We hadn't secured a speaker for our June summer meeting yet. And I'm looking around as the new guy going, what the hell, man? What is everybody doing? Why am I the only one thinking that this is terribly backwards? Why are we waiting till the last minute? So I volunteered, hey, do you need any help with this job? Long story short, I called up Tom and Melissa, got them to come out and be speakers. I called up Brad, phoned in a favor to get Ian to be a Zoom speaker for that same meeting. And I was able to pull off great speakers because of this community really helped me pull together great speakers at the last minute for that. So I want to thank all three of you for helping the CSBA pull that out of a hat. At the very
That was
last minute.
a whirlwind trip too. Tom and I left.
Cow.
Tom and I left out of St. Louis Friday morning. Got into Denver Friday afternoon. And how far was the drive to Rifle, Brian?
About 3 hours. Well, 2.5 with me driving. Thank you very much.
So 2.5 hour drive to a dinner, a meet and greet dinner. Then we went to the hotel for the night. Saturday, we got up, did the conference all day, and the learning yard part. Went to a dinner that night, and then drove all the way back to Denver. And we spent the night at the president of the association's house because we had to catch a flight Sunday morning. They had to get us to the airport at 4 a.m. So
you were teaching a class back in the
because
St.
we were
Louis
teaching
area.
a class in St. Louis at noon.
Yeah.
So it was the craziest, fastest 2-3 days of my life.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Can we just, for my edification, sorry I came in late. I really wish I would have caught the first end of this, but can we have a quick poll here for my information? What's the membership count in the membership in the organizations we're talking about? Mine's about 150 people.
So
the
EMBA is like
350.
350-ish.
Okay.
MSBA is the Missouri State Beekeepers Association. I'm not sure what they are.
Yeah, I don't remember. I don't think it's quite that strong, but I could be mistaken.
We actually have an in-person meeting with them this weekend.
Yeah.
So
I
Yeah,
personally
Virginia
don't know,
State
right?
Beekeepers is about 1,400 people the last time I looked.
I don't know. I have to figure that out. It's a good question.
As president, you should know that number.
I know.
shame on you, Brian.
Well, no,
Shame,
I'll say
Brian.
this,
Shame, President.
Shame.
I have asked that question and not received an answer. Let's put it that way.
You don't have roll?
Now, how many members are in the state? How many
Yeah.
people are
And how many
affiliated?
members do you have in the state association?
I have no idea. And I know
There's
you're
not-
absolutely right.
there's
I,
not
sh-
a-
I
there's not
should
a-
know that.
There's
The
not
There is a
treasurer
list.
should be able to tell
Yeah.
you that.
I agree, Bill. That is correct.
Hey,
100%.
no
Alright.
shame in that, man. There's one reason I know my count, because I send emails to the membership, and
Yeah.
it's all the email lists, the email addresses are in a spreadsheet, and I just
Yeah.
know when I get to the bottom of the spreadsheet, I'm on about a row 154. That's the only reason I know. so,
Our
you know what?
Our club about 250 maybe.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's about it.
So, Todd, welcome. Tell us about your club. Tell us about your role as an officer in a club, and then kind of finish off with that.
He's
How
already
many
eight.
people are in your club?
How many
Yeah,
members?
Yeah. Well, some of you may know the story. Anyway, I have a tiny club here. It's I believe right now we're up to 89 active members.
It's not tiny.
It used to be a lot bigger. It used to be more diverse with different levels of members, member types. You know, beginner, hobbyist, commercial. Who's playing on the computer?
Thomas, he's plugging his phone in, and I guess he bumped it and it keeps making noise now.
Mute your phone, sir.
Listen, I'm playing Tetris. Just go about your business, please.
So, needless to say, we have a small club. We're trying to rebuild it, but there's just the infrastructure that's in place, people wise, is just kind of. I should say it's what's a good word? It's kind of rough right now.
What's your leadership team look like, Todd?
It's kind of a diverse group. We have a couple of positions that are on the board. We have, and I'm on the board. We have farmers that are on the board, longtime beekeepers. But then if you look at the offices, the president is like a past firefighter, and she has a bunch of bees up in the Sierras. The vice president is a physician. The treasurer is a CPA. So I mean, it's kind of a
How many members of, I'm going to call it the leadership team, regardless of if you call it a board or executive
Okay.
or whatever. I'm going to ask how many people are in a leadership position.
we have 12 that are on the board.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
That's a lot of people for 89 people.
Yeah. That's
And
a
there's
big board.
13 different ideas. So I'll just say
Yeah.
that.
Well,
That's too many
Get
voices.
something done.
Yeah.
So what are their positions? Do they have stated positions?
No, I think everybody's equal right now.
Okay, so I would say that's a problem.
Hey,
Yeah.
Todd, can I make a suggestion? So we were talked about board members and positions. So just for clarification here, sometimes you can have what you might refer to as executive committee, which means designated. I mean, everybody's probably familiar with this. Designated positions: president, vice president, treasurer, et cetera, et cetera. And typically there's 5 or 6, maybe 7 of those. And then we have on ours, so we always have an odd number of people, and that's for voting positions. You always want somebody to break the tie, right?
Yeah.
So we always keep an odd number. And we have, you could refer to them, our Missouri State calls them board members at large, okay? You could use different terminology in there. And I think, again, to make sure that you don't have too many chiefs and not enough Indians kind of scenario on the board itself, I think having those particular, and I think I'm preaching to the choir here when I'm talking to everybody, but sometimes for the people in the chat right now, or the ones that might be listening in the future, this is something I feel like it's very important anyway. Having people in the designated positions, and then also having like those members at large to help break ties and or to maybe head just the committees like Brad had talked about earlier. Little subcommittees in the areas that need to be tended to, the conferences or different little events that you're planning, people to be in a work position under a board member. Another thing I think is worth commenting to is,
I have to say,
I'll let that one go.
When Tom says that, one of the things that when we were helping get the EMBA kind of back on its feet was it was kind of a mess because some past board members just kind of fell off and didn't come back. And so everybody, when we were doing that initially, that big group, everybody was doing everybody's job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that was
not good.
That was kind of one of the contingencies when we were asked to step up and be on the board is like, well, we'll do this, but only if everybody's going to stay in their lane.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to be calling facilities and somebody else called and Tom's like, I don't want to be setting up speakers and somebody else is already, calling other people.
Even the MBA that I'm currently on the board of, and it's just a board. Then there's different portfolios, and then we have different committees on the board.
Mhm.
It's all the same people, but you'll have 2 or 3 people on this committee, 2 or 3 people on that committee. So if those 2 or 3 people do the legwork on a certain thing, if somebody that's not on that committee doesn't stay in your lane, right? They don't interfere with what's going on.
Now,
And then we have committee reports, what's going on, right? As far as ties, and I'll be quick. I think the surest way to not have to worry about breaking ties is that the president or chair never votes.
Yep.
They're
I
the
agree.
tiebreaker, right? So if there's a tie, then the president or chair, it's almost at that point an executive decision, right?
Mhm,
If
mhm.
there's a tie, then the chair or president decides which way to go.
See, I joined this club 2 years ago. I didn't, I wasn't really I didn't really want to get into a club because, to be honest with you, I was in a bass club before. And, there's all kinds of politics that go on with that. And I held an office there. It's just, a big giant CF sometimes. And the very first thing that I realized when I got into this and into this position was there's an even number of voters. Why do we have an even number of voters and we don't have someone to to break the tie?
Mhm.
I'm looking.
But you have a president, don't you, or a chair?
Yeah.
Okay, well
Yeah.
that's the person.
Yeah.
So you don't have an even number.
Well,
'cause
if they
you take
do
one-
have
you
an
take
even
one out.
number, they may have an even number, including the president.
Right,
No,
but
they-
that's the whole point. You take the president out, now you don't have an
Yeah.
even number.
Now you don't. Yeah.
And even if you do, you have a tiebreaker.
I brought up that discussion a little bit, and I think people are starting to realize, maybe there's a couple of people that are on the board that, they can.
Yeah, you need
They
that one.
can.
do you
that
have
one-
a constitution, bylaws?
Mhm.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
All right. Is your board members, like in my club, there are certain board member positions and they are elected positions.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
So the president, vice president, treasurer, and secretary are the elected positions.
Mhm.
And then if you have, all right, the person who's in charge of my email, he's an appointed position by me as the president.
So that's more of a falls more in a category of committee, and or this
Yeah,
this amazing volunteer we have as executive assistant. That's not an executive position, right? That's a position that works with the president.
right.
uh,
But that's
to-
not a voting
No.
position.
Right.
That's exactly right.
The elected
That's exactly right.
positions are the
Yeah.
voting positions.
That's
Yeah.
right.
And the other ones, they can't vote.
And
Right.
and see, right now, all of the board of directors have been elected.
So how
including
many? You got
myself.
12
So,
board of directors on that place?
yeah.
That's a
way
lot.
too many.
Wow.
That's way too many. I know another
That's what I
club
thought.
had the same thing over there, and they couldn't get nothing done.
Well, that's kind of where we're at, Charlie. And
So
that's
do
why
your
our
bylaws
membership
talk
is
about,
day
do your bylaws talk about a non-voting president or whatever?
Master.
Because that's generally, like, I've seen that in bylaws
Master.
before, that the president doesn't
Ours-
vote.
Ours
Communication.
has that, Brad.
7.
Yeah,
The
that-
president
that's-
only votes
Because
in
that's
the
a
course
total
of a tie.
fail-safe, right?
That's in our bylaws. Yeah.
Yeah, the bylaws should, each position is explain what their duties and are on the board,
Mhm.
and then on how voting is. Like I'm still sitting on the board as a past president. I'm the tiebreaker. Is I help,
Yeah.
I suggest, and then I do tie breaking.
Mhm.
If it happens to be, but we usually work together. We're always collectively working together and saying, okay. And then the big thing is about board members is it's like you said, Brad, you're in the back. Well, I call that delegating. I'm delegating you to do this and you to do that and you to do this.
Yeah, see, that's the problem with this board is we're not delegating, we're forming, we're running things, and we shouldn't be doing that. We should be overseeing.
Hmm.
Yep.
Yep.
It's,
I mean, if I have a treasurer, that's her job. Treasurer, period.
Yeah.
End of
Yeah.
story.
so
And then I
yeah,
have the vice president. She might have whatever I tell her to do or whatever if I'm president. And then we have the secretary, the recording secretary. Her job is to record the minutes of the meeting and then email it out to us, and then when you get back to the next monthly meeting, it's like you go over the minutes and you say any corrections or additions
yeah,
to it. And that's how it all, it's
Yeah.
sort of
My
exactly
one of my
like
first
Robert's
things
rules.
when I became president a couple of years ago, one of my very first things was to try to impress upon the membership that this is not a spectator sport.
Mhm.
yeah,
You need
Thank you.
you need to get involved. You need to
Yeah.
volunteer because, and I tell them things like this. Every successful organization I've ever seen has a very strong volunteer base, right?
mhm,
If they don't have a volunteer base, they just either suck or they dissolve
Yeah.
eventually. So I think that's sort of gotten through because we had a really good group of volunteers step up for different situations. We have an education committee that's just incredible, and that's the committee that books our speakers and sets up.
yeah.
Honestly, I don't even know who's speaking at half of these meetings because I show up and do the meet and greet and the business part of the meeting, and then the education committee takes over with the speaker and the program or whatever we have. We don't always have a speaker, but we always have some kind of a program going.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So I think it's really important that doesn't happen overnight, especially when there's an organization that's been a spectator sport for a long, long time. People aren't used to that. But I was clear with them. I became president right after we stopped having Zoom meetings because of the forbidden times, and there's all kinds of people asking me, so are we going to keep having Zoom meetings, or are we going to have hybrids, and whatnot? And I said, yeah, sure, we can do hybrids. I said, you want to do it? Because I'm not going to do it. That's exactly my answer. We can do hybrids. We absolutely can do hybrid meetings if you find somebody to do it.
Yeah.
Guess what? No hybrid meetings.
So I agree.
If you don't want it bad enough to do it, then you don't want it bad enough.
Yeah.
So
Right? Because I'm sure as heck not going to do it.
So we had tonight's impromptu board meeting was part two. Part one was last night, and a lot of stuff has not been done. Randy Oliver is going to be speaking at our symposium February 28th, and he's going to be the keynote speaker, and then he's going to be delivering another talk at the very end. And we have Christy from APISM. I don't know. She was at Nabi. I talked to her for a while. And then a researcher from Oregon State. I can't remember his name. He's Greek, and Andion Meta.
Anthony Metalopoulos
Yeah,
or something like
yeah.
that. Yeah.
So
He has a
pretty good speaker.
podcast. Yeah, I butchered that, Brad. I know it.
Oh, no, I'm just saying Greek names. They're like
Yep.
they're really long.
yeah. So we're still last night. We're still figuring out. Well, when I say we, I mean the person that's like talking to Randy or Rose, his assistant, about. We're still going over the like the stuff that should have been done like a month ago when he had already said, "Yeah, I'll come down." He's only 4 hours away. He could drive or fly. And so we don't even have a budget for this stuff. And how do you know how much to spend when you don't know how much you're going to spend? You know, I mean, I just.
Todd, I have a comment. I don't know if it'll help, but here's a little comment. It just came into my mind. It was a few years ago. There was a father and his two grown sons wanted to start keeping bees, and they contacted me and said, "Hey, can we buy bees? And can you show us how, whatnot?" And I said, "Yeah, come on over." So he set them up, and I worked with them a little bit, and then I pulled the father aside and I said, "Okay, there's something very, very important that you guys need to do. There's 3 of you. You have to make one of you responsible. You have to make one of you is ultimately responsible for the success of your bees, because you can't all 3 be responsible."
Yeah.
Right? There's one person that needs to darn well make sure everything gets done and done properly. Maybe not make all the decisions, but make sure the decisions get made and implemented. So in your, this stuff should have been done months ago. Well, that should be that person. And I'm not saying it has to be the president or even you or whoever. It has to be one person. One person needs to make sure that gets done. Not a committee. A committee always has a chair, and the chair is that point person.
Yep.
Right? The chair is the person who brings the committee report to the meeting.
Yeah.
Updates the board on what's going on.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, one thing that we found out about speakers is when you ask them to speak, they should send you a list of their cost.
Yeah, we got that part. So,
Yeah.
But see the part that's been confusing. Well, first of all, let me back up. The fog has been in and out. I don't blame Randy for saying a month ago that he was going to drive down, but then change his mind to fly down, which we are responsible for. The fog is just lately. It's just been really, really bad. Probably the worst it's been in 10 years. And you can't see on the highway. So he would have to drive 4 hours through that stuff. It's dangerous in some places, but I get his point. So I understand what you mean. We did have a list of, he had his menu. He presented his menu to the person that he was talking to from the board. So we got that, but there's other things. To me, a guy like Randy Oliver, he's one of the biggest bee researchers in the country, and they're having a discussion about, well, do we have to take him to dinner? I'm like, yeah, absolutely, you have to take him.
Yeah, you do.
Hell,
That's when my hand goes straight up. I'll do it.
So
I sat there and I talked for 10 minutes about it. I said, you're crazy if you think
those dinners are absolutely gold.
Yes, they
every
are.
single speaker that comes in from out of town gets taken to dinner.
Yeah.
Like there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And
And then you
that
got
was
lunch.
like one of the contingencies that Tom said when he took that position, is if my name's going to be on the line to bring these speakers in, like I'm going to be their him is going to be their point person. Like I'm going to treat them right, and not have them have any type of negative.
I'll say this: prior to COVID, and I don't know how everybody's fee schedule is and work and all that good stuff. The club would say, "Hey, we'll pay this much," and I'm like, "Well, doesn't really work that way because I can't tell somebody what they're worth." Now I can say, "Hey, that's great. I'm sorry, we can't afford to do that." Would be a nice rebuttal, but that was the one thing I said. Is I'm like, I will absolutely do this position, but I'm like, I have some criteria. First of all, I won't be offensive with somebody. And I'll give you, for example, well, we used to pay $100. I'm like, you're not going to stimulate anybody for $100 bill. I
No.
apologize, and I don't mean to sound brash or arrogant or anything of the sort. But I'm like, this is not 1988 for crying out loud. $100 bill is basically like a $10 bill now. So no, I'm not going to do that. And we talked about what the fee schedule should be. And I'm like, I feel comfortable with this. And I'm like, if we can't afford it, maybe we need to work a little harder. Maybe we need to do some more fundraising, maybe this, that, or the other. And the same thing goes for the taking them out to dinner. I'm like, if it's somebody in town that we know, part of one of the clubs, okay, maybe we don't take them out to dinner. We don't have to pay for hotel nights, all that good jazz. But I'm like, anybody out of town, unless they choose not to, I'm like, I'm going to offer to take them out to dinner. And I'm like, it's going to be within reason. We're not going to go order $100 steaks, but it's going to be within reason. And this is how it's going to work. I'm like, otherwise, I'm off, because I'm not going to be the guy to offend somebody, because it's like, hey, man, I can take you to McDonald's or Steak and Shake, but we can't go to Applebee's.
Well, we're not taking anybody to Applebee's either.
I think it's a good contrast. So Steak and Shake and McDonald's to Applebee's, it's a good contrast.
Or Cracker Barrel.
Everybody on this chat right here currently knows me. I'm a foodie. I love to eat good food at places. So I'm going to take somebody to somewhere that's reasonably nice. Okay.
Yep.
You know, so again, so that's funny that topic does pop up, because that got me excited before.
The state of Virginia had a conference in Williamsburg, Virginia. We had Randy Oliver, we had Bob Benny, and some lesser speakers. But that night at dinner, when we took Randy and his guest and Bob and his wife out, the board and husbands and wives from the board, it cost me personally over $700 to feed everybody that night.
Mm-hmm.
I bet it did.
And I didn't get reimbursed.
Yeah, that's not right.
Yeah, that's not right at all.
Yeah, I turned the receipt in, but I didn't get reimbursed. But I can tell you, Bob Benny's fees is $1,500 per engagement. If he speaks twice, that's $3,000 for a conference, plus a room, all of his meals, and his mileage, because he drives everywhere he goes.
So when was that?
That was in 2023.
Okay, because that's not what we paid him last year.
That was in 2023.
Yeah.
He drove from California to Virginia?
Bob Benny?
Oh, I thought I was
He
thinking
drove
Randy.
from Georgia to Williamsburg.
Yeah.
Randy flew in.
Yeah.
And we paid for his flight, his rooms, his meals, and his flight back.
Yeah.
So, but that was a pretty expensive conference for us.
So I will say, one of the things that we put in our contract with all of our speakers is that the EMBA will pay X amount of dollars per mile. But it has to be the cheaper travel option, either flying or driving. That's what we'll pay. If it's cheaper for you to drive and you decide to fly, then we are just going to give you and however much it would have cost for you, you know, your mileage, and you can put that towards your flight, but you're responsible for the rest of your flight.
Yeah, when we started doing the contracts, because when I came in, they never did contracts before. They just paid an honorarium is all they did, right? So when I came in, we started doing contracts. Mileage is your federal allowance for mileage.
Mm-hmm.
So this year, it's 72 cents a mile.
But it's different for not-for-profits.
No, it's not.
That's a federal government.
That's a
rate.
federal.
I thought it was different for a not-for-profit.
Nope.
Ours is actually, we just changed our mileage log this week. It's 72.5 cents a mile.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so for non-for-profits, and I don't remember how this worked exactly, but it was like 30-something cents per mile. Now,
Wow.
for reference, our speakers, we pay it at the rate of, well, was 70, I think now is 71 or 72 cents a mile, is what it's paid out as. But
Yeah.
like, for instance, I'll give you for example, or we're going to Columbia, Missouri this weekend, Melissa and I, for a Missouri State Board meeting. They pay us at that rate of 30 something cents a mile.
Wow.
I mean, you're probably covering fuel in a fuel efficient car, reasonably fuel efficient car, and a little bit extra cost. You're probably not really covering full wear and tear and stuff, but but we, again, from our position, we went into this with helping the community. So I don't really push any waves over that, so it's not a big deal.
Yep.
All right. Well, I don't want to keep you guys up too late. If you want to keep going, we can keep going. This is what I just to kind of bring it all together. I have a page full of kind of guiding questions, and we've hit so many pieces of some of those questions, and we have so many potentials that we can dive into. Honestly, I don't know if this is the kind of chat that's going to appeal to the average chat watcher out there. But this is a conversation that's been very fruitful to me. I'm guessing for some of you as well, it's been very fruitful for where you're at in your leadership roles in your community. And I want to kind of reiterate that you all here that are folks that I invited, Joey in the background still, people that hadn't gotten a chance to join in. You are all leaders in your community, whether you are officers in state or local clubs, people like Charlie and Bill showing up, Joey showing up every week to do these chats is dedication and leadership to being there for the community and being a place where people can learn. So I want to thank for all of you for being leaders in our community. I'm certainly privileged to get to know you all. And as I continue in my journey as a leader, you bet I'm going to lean on my friends to kind of help me through my experiences. Any other last moments any last thoughts before we wrap up tonight?
As soon as you don't lean on your friends is when you fall down.
Yep.
Yeah, you got it, Brad. I would love to, Todd, as we plan forward, occasionally do a Westward Bees chat where it is kind of like a local leaders or a president's lounge kind of conversation. The tough part is this late night kind of slot can make it hard to get some voices that we would love to have. I appreciate all of your voices and staying up late. Yes, sir.
Maybe we could squeeze it in before Joey's show on Saturday afternoons or something, or Sunday afternoons.
Find some options for earlier times.
Yeah.
Do you think the chat bar wants to listen on this kind of stuff, or is it this more of a private meeting type of thing to help each other out or help you out or whatever?
There are benefits both ways. Sometimes in a private meeting, you can say things that you wouldn't otherwise say if you know that anybody can see it at any time. But the flip side is this is a really good conversation for people thinking about or in these positions. So I want to be able to provide it as a resource for people who are thinking the exact same things that we are here. So I'm open to it being public.
That's fine with me.
And you know what? I don't want to hijack. I don't want to say, "Hey, Charlie, let's do it on your channel one night," because if it's a conversation that's not very appealing, I don't want that to impact like the amount of people that are watching for you. If you're counting minutes or hours or whatever that is. So I don't know, folks in the chat, if you want to give us feedback, is this something you want us to do more of? Is it important? Is it helpful? That'd be great feedback for you. Any other last?
I just kind of found it was interesting how some of us are the structure of our clubs are closely the same, and some of us are totally different depending on where you live at or how big your club is. I mean, like Joey was here talking about 15 people showing up. I've heard conversations of our older members talk about, well, we would just get together and hang out. Yeah. And there was only 15 of them, and that was just more of a social event back then. Now it's, has gotten bigger and bigger.
I think it's important to know what's the mandate of your association, right? Why do you exist? I think if you don't know, and if your association doesn't know, develop that. There's nothing wrong with sitting down form a committee. sit
Yeah.
down with them and create a mission statement.
Definitely.
Yeah. I mean, we have
You ready to say that, Brad? A
Yeah.
mission
Or the-
statement
or the
helps
association.
everything.
Yeah.
Because my mission statement would not be like Bill's mission statement. You know,
Yep.
it would be very different. It probably wouldn't be like it wouldn't be like any of you.
Mhm.
You know, it would be unique to my association, and
Yes.
not doesn't
Well, now
belong
is your
to me. But
membership spread out, Brad? I mean, you're in a great big, like, you're out in the Midwest where everything's spread out.
we're fairly localized. I would say that we have for the people who attend our in-person meetings. I'll talk about first of all, which is not nearly the whole membership. I would say we run about a 30 to 50 mile catchment for that meeting.
Okay.
And we have a lot of members in that area that don't attend meetings. We have probably a third of our members actually come out every month.
And these
but
are
we have
backyard type beekeepers, right? Not-
we have people from 1 colony to 500 colony sideliners. Like, we have everybody. Most of them are under 40, let's say.
right.
But we have a good representation of fairly larger beekeepers. I mean, Ian's a member, right? We have quite a few large commercial beekeepers that are members, mostly because they enjoy, they see value in our association. They want to support us. Our membership fees are extremely affordable. It's the best $35 a person beekeeper can spend. I think, I think it's worth $35 a month, let alone a year. So,
Depending on the level of training, that was something we didn't touch on, and that's my biggest concern with my club is they focus on the one group, which is the beginners all the time, which is fine, but it's like we got a speaker coming in about queen management. I finally got them to get that, and it's like I'm trying to bring the level of education and well, not so much just the level of education, but trying to get the members, like, come on, people, let's get more professional about it, or more.
It's not a linear thing, though. It's multi-level. It's always going to be, you've got 40-year beekeepers and you've got 1 month beekeepers. Like, you always got that. So a workshop on how to split bees is always going to be relevant, as well as a workshop on, instrumental insemination for queens. Like, that's also going to be relevant. So
Well, that's what I'm saying is that, and I'm guilty of it when I was president, is that the club gets into this rut of rinse and recycle every year. Like Melissa was talking about, this month we always do this, and this month we always do that. And it's like, come on, guys, let's get a little bit more advanced here, or let's pick them up by the bootstraps and get them a little bit higher education. But is that club member, it's like on this queen thing, I said, you can have 30 people, and if you want to teach grafting, maybe 3 of them might want to do that, and the rest of them, well, we don't want to do that, because we just don't want to get to that level.
So, Charlie, our kind of solution to that is every month. So our meetings go, there's a meet and greet for like the first half hour, and then the meeting will start, and we'll do a this month in beekeeping, which is kind of your, the new beekeepers will, if they're having any issues, that's where they'll ask, well, first off, Tom or one of the other board members or somebody that's been in the club for a long time will kind of go over what to expect this month. Should you be feeding? Is it time to put your supers on? Is it time to split? How do you do that? Yada, yada, yada. And then people who are having issues, maybe newer beekeepers, that's where they'll ask all their questions, and we'll answer all those questions, or other experienced beekeepers will speak up and answer those questions. And then we move into our speaker. And now I will admit, usually in certain parts of the year, it is rinse and repeat. We talk about spring management in March. We talk about
Rural control and all
You
that.
know,
Yeah.
we'll talk about Varroa in July or June. You know,
Right.
we'll
What's
talk
what's the
about
run what's the
wintering
runtime of that
in
meeting, Melissa?
August.
What's the runtime of that meeting
So
typically?
it
3 hours.
starts at 6:30. People can start arriving at 6. We start setting up at 6, but so the meet and greet actually starts at like 6:30ish and it runs until 9.
Yeah.
So
Okay, that's an hour longer than ours. Ours is only an
Yeah.
hour and a half, 7:30 to 9.
so that's kind of, and then on those months that there's not really any pressing bee issues going on, that's when we'll bring in those different types of speakers. Or like when we wanted to do grafting, we brought Corey Stevens in and we had a separate class that you had to pay for to go to that grafting, you know, kind of like what
Yeah.
Bill did,
Yeah.
to go to that grafting class. And that's kind of how we bring in those more advanced topics for our club
so-
anyway.
So we offloaded a lot of that time because nothing bores an experienced member more than talking about the difference between a screened and a solid bottom or something, this telescoping lid and a migratory lid, like
Mhm.
But new people need to know that stuff.
Mhm.
We offloaded that on our novice sessions, which are Zoom based. They're not in person, and I didn't really plan on this, but what really happened is that Zoom call brings in an overlapping yet diverse subset of members. A lot of people who don't get to come to the monthly meetings, maybe they've got a weekly conflict with the monthly meeting, or if they just live too far away and they don't want to drive in the Zoom meeting, right? So we've offloaded a lot of that, and I think those run hour and a half as well, 7:30 to 9.
And
See,
those are
and-
for
Generally
paid
we're
members
trying.
only, Brad?
What's that?
Are those for paid members only, or is that open to the general public?
Well, I don't police it. I send the invitation to the paid membership,
Mhm.
but I don't police.
So
who
I feel
comes
like
on.
Yeah, understood.
I feel like we fill that gap with our workshop that's coming up in February. We have
Yeah.
a beginner's session. And so that all day is all the basic beginner's information that you need to know. And then 2 or 3 weeks later, we have a follow-up meeting for those people. Like, you get downloaded all this information, you go home and you sort through it, and then they can come back to that next meeting. We'll kind of quickly go over that all again and then answer any questions that they will have.
The
But
driving.
we also have a mentorship program. So
Yeah,
all
we have
those
that
new
too.
beekeepers
Yeah.
can get hooked up with a mentor.
Yeah.
And
Vital.
that's kind of how we handle new beekeepers. And of course
Do you have
there's
your
more
meetings all
in
summer? Do you break for the summer?
We
Do
do.
you have
We
meetings all
do.
summer?
The only months we don't have meetings is, well, this year it's August, but it's usually September we don't have a meeting because we have a club picnic in September. And
Okay.
then in December we don't have a meeting because we have
Right.
our Christmas party.
Right. Yeah, we don't have meetings in the summer. There's I think June, July, August we don't have meetings, and when I got to be president, I felt really bad that right in the thick of the season we abandoned our new beekeepers,
Mhm.
and that's kind of why I started novice session. And
very
the
good.
theme of our novice session is always the next 60 days.
Mhm.
Very good.
So we try to talk about the next 60 days. It often goes off topic and whatnot, but that's the essence of why we have novice sessions. So that if you're a brand new beekeeper or whatever, it don't have to be brand new if you want to attend. And I always invite more experienced beekeepers to attend too, because I'm not the be all and end all. Like I don't know most stuff, right? So I want some more experienced beekeepers in there to help guide the new people, give them, correct and relevant information. But that's kind of why we do that.
That actually makes good sense to me. You guys don't have the summer meetings. Probably you'll get less of attendance because people vacationing, all sorts of things get in the way of family and things like that. So that makes sense. But then you guys are filling that gap too. So you're really not stopping education. You're just changing the format just a little bit.
So I
Yeah,
want to
and again, it's a different set of people, or it's an overlapping yet different set of people.
Yeah,
right?
I would say so. Yeah.
So I want to add one more thing to kind of how different clubs handle new beekeepers or different level of beekeepers. And a lot of this is, number one, how much money does your club have? Number two, how much space, depending on the money, depends on how much space you have for your meetings, right? Or where you can hold your meetings. So there's one club, I think it's the Ozark Club, that is about 3 hours away from us ish, 3-ish hours
So
away
we're
from
in
us
Springfield, right?
in Springfield.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I went to a couple
They
meetings.
Good club.
they meet at a local college. I don't know if one of their members teaches there or whatnot, but anyway, they meet at a local college. And Tom and I spoke there this summer. Well, Tom spoke, so right after I had my surgery, so I sat there in pain. Anyway, so Tom spoke there this summer, and the way they handle their club is very interesting because when they start their meeting is their speaker for the evening. They might go over some club business and then their speaker does.
Right.
After their speaker is done, they do breakout sessions to beginner beekeepers, intermediate beekeepers, and experienced beekeepers, all in separate classrooms. So each,
Wow.
and then they have board members that lead
Mhm.
each of those groups.
Members
So that's
love
really-
that stuff.
Yeah, that I thought that was amazing that they're able to get, to get enough volunteers to do that, and that they have the space, because like I said, it requires space also to break out into those sessions afterward. And they have a really good club there. It's a really good club.
Our education committee kind of planned one of the, very similar last year for that. And when they told me what was going to happen that night, I kind of thought, well, it's something different. I'm just going to watch and see what happens. Man, did we ever get some reviews? People were saying, this is the most incredible meeting I've ever been at, of all the, and we've had some really good speakers. We have some local talent like you would not believe here that we can call in for meetings for speakers. And they absolutely love that stuff. They're just hungry for that stuff.
One other thing that I thought was really cool, I got invited to speak at
Hey, Bill.
the North Florida this last year. I forget the name of that club now. It's not Nassau County. It's the other one that John was.
John Boxteagle's club.
John Boxteagle's club. Anyway, somehow we were headed down there, and I got roped into doing it, but it was fine. It was fun. We had a good time. One other thing that I really enjoy about going to different clubs is seeing how that they do things, and it helps me to bring better and newer and fresher ideas to our area. Brian Zavada and Melissa and I have had many of conversations that revolved specifically around that topic. How do you bring new ideas, fresh ideas, and fun content to your local area, and do it within a way that is budget friendly and also help and can be accomplished with the workforce that you have in place, right? Everybody can't do everything because of many of different reasons. Like Brad said earlier, we don't all have the same mission statements, okay? Because our areas are different, our personalities are different, our levels of beekeepers are different, all that sort of stuff. So we have to cater to the people that we're serving. But the one cool thing I think that North Florida had done when we were down there is, I don't know, I was actually really impressed, to be honest with you. These guys brought in all kinds of equipment with door prizes. And I'm like, holy cow. And
it was like a conference.
Are you guys getting all this stuff? I'm like, this is amazing. They were giving away like hive boxes. I mean, not just like one or two. There was like, I don't even know.
Fresh eggs.
I mean, there was all kinds of stuff. And I'm like, I want to move to North Florida. It was
they
really
had
cool.
It was almost like a conference door, that the amount of door prizes they were giving away. It's like,
Yeah.
you get a prize and you get a prize.
Yeah, we have that. We have that at our in-person
I
meetings.
mean, we give away door prizes too, but it's like 3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's just cool.
Now, I belong to a club, Westchester, Pennsylvania, which is about an hour and a half away. I don't go to their club meetings as much as they used to. And, but anyway, they are like a 600 member club, and they're in a ritzy area. And like you say, I'm talking about hive tools and marking pins and, small things, but they'll have 15, 20 door prizes, for free.
Yeah, that's great.
And that kind of
You know
stuff.
what? I bet
And
it
then
gets
they
people
had
to
the
show up
breakout.
though.
They had the breakout sessions, intermediate, advanced, maybe queen rearing or something over here, that kind of a thing. And all that. Now what would you call it? The management has changed, and I won't say that their meetings are quite as amazing as what they used to be in the past and everything. But yeah, you know.
Well, one thing that's clear is for a club to be vibrant, it needs a diverse member group, whether that be a local club or a state or province level club. I think, and you need to engage the beekeepers, the members of different levels in different ways to keep that club vibrant and to keep them coming. A lot of times what happens is a beekeeper will age out of a local club because oftentimes it's first year, second year, third year, because that's often the group sitting in front of them. So they're attending to their audience. You need to find ways to have a balance of making sure that those people are getting something out of that club experience so they keep coming back, because they are tremendously valuable members of the club. Oftentimes they become officers by default of their beekeeping skill set, and that can be a way to push them out of the club because they get burned out in an officer role and then they're done. You hear that a lot of times where people are like, "Yup, I was the last person to leave the room," or for whatever reason, and they ended up being in the office position. And you hear I just got to get through it and be done with it so I can be like, "Nope, did that already, don't want to do it again," kind of thing.
I would say, though, Brian, even more than diversity, the absolute number one thing for a vibrant, successful association is volunteers. Because if you have a good, solid volunteer base, that's going to make sure that diversity happens, because you're going to have volunteers that have one hive. First year beekeeper, you're going to have somebody who's been in it for 40 years, who's run 2,000 hives, and now they've got 100, that sort of thing. And it's going to grow out of that volunteer base. So I think get people involved, get people to feel like that association belongs to them.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And they have some kind of loyalty and some kind of a buy-in, some kind of ownership of that.
Well,
that
I have to say too that when getting people involved is really important, and sometimes people are intimidated about getting involved.
Oh yeah.
And so we always kind of, when we need volunteers for this, that, or the other, we kind of just make it a point to say, to let people know, like, this club does not run on its own. Like, we need you to be involved. It doesn't matter how much experience you have. We need you. And, we kind of sometimes list off things that the board members are doing, because sometimes it does. Most of the responsibilities just fall on the board members because you don't have people volunteering, but it has to be done, right? And then when you explain, like, hey, we're doing like, a lot of people don't understand everything that the board's doing. And when you put it out there for them, they're like, oh, like the eyes kind of get popped open. And the way that we kind of recruit volunteers, besides making announcements at like club meetings and whatnot, because we don't do like committees, but we'll do like I'll make a sign up genius, and we'll publish, like, if we're having an event like the workshop and we need people to work the registration table, this, that, or the other, we'll just do a sign up genius and we'll have that on our newsletter, and people will sign up for things that way. That's kind of how we recruit volunteers.
What's a sign up genius?
So it's just a website that you can make sign up sheet, an online sign up sheet is all it is.
Okay. So it's just like SurveyMonkey or something.
Yeah, that's what. Okay. Like I was talking about Harry, that's what he does. He puts out a sign up genius for.
Okay.
We, like you say, we need help for whatever,
Yeah. Okay.
Or you can also put out sign up genius for a questionnaire. What would you like to do this and do that, and whatever, they either check off boxes or multiple guest questions and all that stuff.
Yeah. And then we were talking about like delegating people to do things. And so I don't know how well this is going to show up, but for our workshop that's coming up, we have all of these. Yeah, it's going to blur it out because of the setting Tom has it on. Hold on.
Y'all notice how all the people that help us out are hers?
So, no. Oh, you
Roll
Make
call.
me big. There we go. So this is kind of about like all the tasks that need to be done. I don't know if you can read any of them that need to be done for the workshop. And
It
there's a second
tell-
page too. And
Yeah, it says
so
tell Tom to take the trash out. Tell
Yeah.
Tom to wash the dishes.
so this is mostly for our board, like specific things that members of the board have to do. So this is a Google it's just a Google form actually. And then we can put like if we're working on it, if it's done, and then the person who's responsible for that, they sign up, right there. But that's kind of how with the workshop, how we kind of organized who needs to do what tasks, making sure things are getting done, things like that. And then there's room on this too, that if they need, like whoever signed up to do that task, if they need more help for that task, they can recruit people outside the board to help them
Yep.
with that. So
Yeah, that's vital. I make that clear whenever, committee or whatever. It's kind of like you're the point person. You don't have to do the work. You need to make sure the work gets done. Like recruit people, find volunteers, bring people into the committee. Just make sure, make this great, right? Just make a great whatever you're trying to do. You can bring people in. It's vital.
yeah. And you guys all know how much I don't like to handle things.
It's hard. It's hard to not just say,
is.
"I'll just do that." Right?
Yeah. I'll
Of
just do it myself. It's okay. I'll take care of it.
Melissa has a gift of
That's the worst thing you can do, in my opinion. That's the worst thing you can do.
she has a gift of great organization.
Before I retired, we had a few Melissas at our job. And a lot of the special things we did wouldn't have got done if we didn't have those Melissas.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm not like with and Tom and I try to reiterate this all the time because, people say stuff to us about how things go or whatever. Like, well, we didn't like, we might be the ones talking about it, but there are definitely a million other people behind the scenes taking care of the stuff. It's not, we might be promoting it and talking about it, and we might be the people that you see. But if we didn't have, especially with the EMBA, the amazing board that we have, like none of the stuff that we get to do would be getting done.
And I feel compelled to. I totally agree with what Joey said, and I feel compelled to qualify when I say that's the worst thing you can do. I'm talking about the context of what we're here as leaders and presidents and whatnot of associations. It's all about delegation. It's all about getting people involved and whatnot. Because you get one man band syndrome, and then everybody just kind of sits there and watches the show. That doesn't build community.
Then it kind of fizzles out.
Yeah.
That's right, man.
So ironically, this next month, our club meeting, and Joey knows this, happens to be Mike Berry. Mike Berry, and I have heard him and I spoke in great detail. I haven't heard specifically the talk, but I know Mike well enough to trust him. Typically, I like to hear my speakers speak first before I ever invite them
That
in.
Mike Berry guy, you just don't know about him.
Anyway, one of the main topic that he is going to speak on, and I thought this was actually brilliant, and we've never done this before, to my knowledge, is he's going to talk about volunteering. The volunteer going to talk about the mentoring and the roles that should be performed by the mentor and the mentee. So talking about expectations from both. And I think that is good because it sets a clear boundary. Sometimes maybe people don't always exercise good judgment in certain areas, but if you have some roles set forth from a mentor or mentee role, and I would say maybe particularly if it's a male-female role thing too, I think you need to be cautious about that. But again, understanding clear guidelines about different things and volunteering, plugging into your organization, you're going to get out of it what you put into it. And that was the reason I thought this was a great presentation that he's going to give. It really has nothing to do with quote unquote beekeeping, but beekeeping really in a sense is kind of the community. And it's kind of what we're doing is we're helping the community and in return them being better beekeepers. So I think this definitely very much plays a role into it. So I think it's funny that we're all talking about these topics, and we happen to have this lined up here for the last, I don't know, month and a half or whatever. So, but I even talked to Joey about this before too, and he's like, "This is a really good talk. You guys are in for an absolute treat here." So
what more efficient community do you have than a beehive,
that's right.
than a colony of bees, right? And how
Yeah.
many spectators are in a colony of bees?
0.
Even drones have a purpose, right?
That's right.
I haven't
So-
kicked Tom out yet.
You know, Tom, you talk about that. We got one more guy here. I don't know if he would ever travel that far, but he should.
Mhm.
He does one he calls, and several people have the term bee math,
Mhm.
but this guy has one called bee math. And I tell you what, it is a very interesting talk.
Yeah.
He
They'd
really
have to
breaks
pay-
it down in things that need to be done and when,
Mhm.
why. It's probably one of the best bee math talks I ever heard.
Does he give
Joe-
that one at your club, Joey?
He actually belongs to the he's the president at the let me think a minute. It's one of the Mississippi clubs,
Okay.
Pine Belt Mississippi Club.
Mhm.
I'll actually give you his contact information. Maybe you could get him one day.
Yeah.
You
So
would-
does he have any of this recorded anywhere or something I could see?
Uh, I don't know. I can ask him.
Yeah. So I would absolutely love to hear about that. I know what's funny is of all the people here in the chat,
I went to
I
three
actually-
of it. I went to 3 classes where he did this same talk, and everything. Every time I heard something that I missed the first time.
yeah.
It was a good class.
Yeah, I like those talks that you listen to and you go back and listen to them again and again.
Yeah.
There's certain ones I've listened to online like 6 or 7 different times, and I just get a little bit more information because it was something I had a strong interest in and thought it was very important to our role there. But I mean, it sounds very interesting, and I'm always looking for something that's a little bit different, but also that people can use in a practical style.
I tell you what I'll do. I'll actually ask him if I can give his contact information to you,
Sure.
and if he says okay, I'll give it to you.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, I mean, you're welcome to give mine out to this guy too. I don't have a problem with that.
Okay,
So, I mean, either way.
I'll see him in a few days, so I'll talk to him.
Okay. Yeah.
Joey,
very
I'd love this. I'd love the same if you don't mind. I've heard you talk about this gentleman's talk before,
Yeah.
so thank you for bringing it up again.
And I've seen several people talk and called their talk bee math, but
Yeah.
when this guy did it, it all made sense.
Huh.
Every bit of it, because he had it broke down in different tiers. I'm too redneck to explain it, but he had it broke down in different tiers and different stages of the bee life, and it all made so much good sense. Bee math is
Awesome.
what he calls it.
Thank you, Joey. All right, and with that, it is 10:24 Mountain Standard Time. I hereby call this meeting adjourned.
I second.
Thank you, every. All
There's not a
right.
motion on the floor. You have to do it right.
Has to be a motion on the floor, and it doesn't need a seconder.
All in favor?
A motion we adjourn.
Wait.
Thank-
To
thank-
lead us out, maybe you should read some of Robert's rules to us so we can go drift off to sleep.
Thank you all for getting
I
that.
motion we table that.
I second, Joey.
All right, folks, everyone here, including Bill, thank you so much for sharing your experiences and your perspectives. Thanks for the folks for sticking with us in the chat. I know this is a very targeted conversation, but again, I think it's very fruitful. And with
Thanks for
that,
putting this together, Brian.
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Oh,
Appreciate
yeah,
all
no
you for
problem.
coming. Tomorrow night, remember, is Thursday night. What's the plan Thursday night, Tom and Melissa? Is are they
Ricky should be back, so
Yeah.
it should be
Okay.
on Ricky Rourke's channel tomorrow night.
okay? And then Charlie, you're up Friday, Joey Saturday.
Yes.
All right, so we got a plan for the rest of the week, everyone. Have a great night.
Night,
All
everybody.
right.
Night, everybody.
See ya.
Good night.
Oh.
We'll be live.
I almost,
Are we done?
I almost clicked the wrong red button.